Good afternoon. It's approximately 1:43 p.m. Mountain Time. I shouldn't even try to guess at the date. I guess it would be could be April 6th of the year 2006. And again, like I said, I try not to give these things too much attention because it has a tendency to get, I guess, convoluted. But I think that it is time that I started to, instead of talking about the environment, started talking about how some constructive practices to manage or to get out of life what you want. And you have to recognize it. I guess you have to. The only thing I have not, it just came to my mind, talked about is the balance of life. What does that mean? I mentioned it before. I've written about it before. You couldn't look through these videos and read through the articles without getting a sense of what it is I'm talking about. And when I'm talking about balance in life, I'm not talking about careers and bank accounts and what have you. For a long time, I've been a firm believer that we were made with certain capacities, certain abilities, certain desires, things that we need in order for us to be happy. And our modern world doesn't speak about that. When I talk about it, I keep going back to friendships, family, marriage, children. If you look at the big picture, that's where we're missing. And we do have a superficial understanding. That's not even a question. On a very thin veneer, we have an idea of what love and romance and marriage and parenthood is, but we really don't have an in-depth understanding of what life is and what life entails. And a lot of life is human relationships, and those human relationships exist under various boundaries. We're blurring the boundaries. There are, unfortunately, this may be a vulgar statement, but the reality is there are brothers and sisters who are having sexual relationships. There are same gender friends who are having sexual relationships, and they don't think about the love and the intimacy that is involved, or even the love and the intimacy that they will have. It's just a sport now. I think that's one of the biggest failures of the modern human, is to make sex something no more than recreation. And I'm a proponent of recreation. I tell people, get out and live life. Biking, mountain climbing, canoeing, hiking. Get out and live life. You have to work. We all know we have to work, but give yourself some time to actually get something out of life. One of these days, I keep saying that I'm going to sit down and do a video essay on depression, and we have within our internal desires and our internal needs, what we need to be a healthy human being is activity, is life, is doing things, is dancing, singing, being involved with other people, actually living, and it doesn't go away. And when we have a life of very little stimulation, of very little friendships, very little conversation, and even the most intimate, which involves marriage and sexual intimacy, we enter into the realm of depression, and major depression. It can even get into a shock state where we stop to feel, we stop to taste food. But today, the premise, the basic idea is how to go about starting a relationship. Now, a romantic relationship, not a friendship, okay, not resolving the issues with your family. This is a guy or a girl thinking about how to begin. And the beginning, I have to say this again, the beginning is us. before we start to date, which some people do, or before we start to consider romance, we have to put our life in order. That's the beginning, and that involves that question and answer session with ourselves, where we evaluate, we analyze, and everything that we have control over, realistic control over, that we can actually do some constructive work in, we fix. We write out a plan of action. We do what we can first, and we just start working down the list until we're at where we want to be. And the admonition here is, remember that God is in charge, and God is the one that has a purpose for your life. And if you're going about evaluating your life and your direction, and writing out your quest, or where your destiny, where you want your destiny to be, and you're not involving God, you're going to miss out. You may have a good life, but you're not going to get a great life. That's one of the truths that I have learned in my many years of meditation, of thinking, and of evaluating information. If you're not including God, you're not going to have the greatest life that you can have. But again, God's not out there working against you. So the first step is to evaluate your life and put your life in order. Everything. There are things you just don't have any control over. You may desire something, but you don't have no control over it. Nothing you can do about it, except the reality of it. Give yourself a break. It's a nice dream, but if it's an unobtainable dream, then it's just going to drive you crazy. So why keep doing it? Now, once you have evaluated your life, you got to ask yourself, what kind of a person am I? What do I like to do? What interests do I have? And along the lines is, what kind of a person would I like to be sharing my life with? And the admonition here is, if you just want to date for the sake of dating, or the sake of having sexual relations, you're going down the wrong road. Sex is a part of human life, but it's better when it's involved in marriage. And there's dynamics in marriage relationships, sexual dynamics. One spouse wants and when the other spouse doesn't, that's in a marriage. Right now we're getting to the point of actually locking in our sights on a person that we would like to date. So we evaluate our lives, we put our lives in order, we figure out what kind of a person we are, and then we start thinking about what kind of person we would like. Then you have to start taking inventory of your personal skills to gain the attention of this person. Say, I don't think God is going to come knocking on your door and say, hey, I found the perfect mate for you, here she is, or here he is. That's not going to happen. So it's going to involve an active pursuit on your part. Now, and what I mean by admonition is, the warning. Women, let me just finish by saying that women have a lot to lose by being trusting too early in a relationship, because unfortunately, from another truth that I have learned is men are very immature emotionally, very immature in dating. If you ask the average male what his goals are in dating, if he's going to be honest with you, he's going to tell you sexual relations. And we live in a world where that's possible. But again, I can tell you that the full life comes with marriage, which sexual relations is a part of. If you're just having sex without marriage, without thinking about children, without thinking about a home, without thinking about, we waste so much money, and we harm ourselves. Without thinking about good money management, then you're losing. Say, and I think that one of the things is, counselors, therapists, whatever the case may be, we have a great obligation of not imposing our value system on people. Well, I'm not counseling anybody. All I'm doing is sharing information that I have gathered. Okay? And you yourself know the truth. In evaluating your life, ask yourself, is this modern morality that I'm living actually helping me get what I want out of a personal, intimate relationship? We are the greatest barometer to measure the quality of our lives, because we know what we want and we know what we have, and we know what we have meets the standard of what we want. And we have to keep thinking. It is a thinking process. It's a work process. But you evaluate and organize your life. You figure out who you are as a person and what kind of a mate you would like. And then you start thinking about how to go about it. What are your skills? Are you a good flirt? People make a big deal of flirting. Flirting out of place is wrong. Yes, it is. If you're a married person and you're flirting, you're wrong. You may not want to hear it, but you're wrong. If you're a single person but you just flirt without purpose, you're wrong. But that is one of the things, and then you have to know how to do it. But before you even get to flirtation, you have to have eye contact. You have to be, looking around, and you have to know what to do. See, the opportunity to meet a person the opportunity to make contact with a person is very small after eye contact has been made. And that's one of the skills you're just going to have to learn. You're going to have to learn to follow through. You know who you are, you know what you want, and you start looking at places that you can go to meet people that are like the people that you want to date with, the person you're looking for. The next is, how do you meet them? How do you introduce yourself? How do you approach them? How do you make contact? Which is really not that hard. One of the major problems people make is they do wear their hearts on their sleeve, and they get too eager, and they lose perspective, and they try to have a romantic relationship quickly. I met the person, that's it, we're in love. That's not the way it works. You have to talk to the person. They get to know you. You get to know them. You may realize that from the aesthetic, from the physical, yes, they were attractive, but after you sat down and talked with them, you realize they're just not personally attractive to you. And that's a reality. You have to be honest. I think the worst thing in life is living a lie. And I'm going to be talking a lot about lies, And if you're eager to get into a relationship and you don't care how you get into a relationship, that's a lie. And you're not going to be happy in a lie. You're not going to be able to get what you want out of life living a lie. You want to be real about it. And you have to understand that that dating leads to courtship, which leads to an actual relationship, which leads to the possibility of marriage, which leads to the possibility of parenthood, which leads to the possibility, for marriage, at marriage, cohabitation. Could you live with another person? Could you share your home, your environment with another person? These are ideas that we just don't think about. And we think about the dating, the kissing, the holding hands, the other stuff, the movies, the dinners, how do you feel when they look at you in the eye, the butterfly. But we don't sit down and think about the concrete stuff. What's all about? What's the direction we're going? So you evaluate your life, you organize your life, you figure out what kind of a person you want. I'm a person that believes that you should have a picture of the physical type that you would like to date. And somewhere on that picture, write the personal qualities you would like to have that person to have. On the back, not on the front. And then evaluate your life, figure out organize your life, put it in order. Again, there's things you can do and there's things you just can't do. But it's not a bad thing. Stop being a pessimist. Optimism is better. A positive, healthy attitude, and an attitude that I can and I will. That's a better attitude. And then, once you start, after you once you evaluate your life, you put it in order, you organize it, you figure out who it is you want to date, you figure out what kind of qualities they want, you start figuring out where it is you can meet these people, and you go to those places, and you have to follow through. You just have to throw yourself in the water and hope that you can swim. Literally, if you pick up a daily newspaper, you're going to see 40 events around your city, depending on where you live. What events interest you? And that's where you go to meet people. Now, if you have people with different interests in yours, well, you figure out where those people hang out. They're probably in the newspaper, the living section, the lifestyle section, whatever it is you call it. And you figure out where those people hang out, and then you go. eye contact is important. And again, you have a limited amount of time from the initial eye contact to where you have the opportunity, that window of opportunity to approach the person, but you want to approach that person in a polite manner, in a, you don't want to be drooling. And unfortunately sometimes, anxiety can bring out the worst in us, and we have to make sure that that we're not, putting people off with our initial impression. Attire, haircuts. I've written about it before. These 40-year-old men with ponytails and pierced earrings and beer guts and shorts, corduroy shorts and sandals with socks on. I just don't know who in the world that could be attractive to. And I'm attracted to women. I'm not sitting there looking at men like I'm, but your presence, how you dress, and I do believe you have to dress your best when you're going to go out and try to meet somebody. Okay, now the approaches can be, just walking over and saying hello, my name is, and then that's the beginning. And it's not hard to do if you practice it. If you practice being social, it's not hard to do. Meeting people, shaking their hands, average everyday questions are okay. On the first meeting, average everyday questions are okay. And then you have to use your skills. Is it okay? Does this person feel comfortable? Have I stepped on any social landmines? And then, I should have started with this first. Prepare yourself to be rejected. Recognize that you may find somebody attractive, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to find you attractive. And there is no law that says that it has to be a person, a particular person. This person, born on this day, with this name, living in this city, working. No. It'd be great if it could be, but the reality is that you're probably going to have to go through a certain amount of rejections before you find that one person that can tolerate you. And I probably shouldn't have put it under those terms, but that's what it basically comes down to. Who is that person that you can hang out with and that doesn't frustrate you, and that you don't frustrate, and that you're attracted to, and that you feel an emotional connection with, and that you can enjoy that person's company, and that both of you are healthy enough to be real, to be in touch with life, to not be falling into these ruts of social duty, of work and visiting friends and what have you. We can be selfish to a certain degree, and romantic relationships is about us and our mate. And of course, we're going to have to involve the outside world, but we have to recognize that we have to be in tune to each other. We have to be involved with each other. See? And there's a lot of work to it. And in this modern world, there's a lot of these messages that we just don't have. And if we honestly want to get to a fulfilling life, a full life, a satisfying life, an enjoyable, pleasurable life, we have to understand how much it is that we want, how much it is that we thirst after, how much it is that we hunger after, how much is it that we lust after. See? With standards. Nothing wrong with moral standards, nothing wrong with biblical standards. It is about one person. Once you meet that person, it's about loyalty, it's about fidelity, it's about monogamy, it is about being a trustworthy person, it's about a person that can stay focused on that one person, And if you have a healthy attitude, you'll live better, and you'll be a better mate for your partner, and your partner will be a better mate for you. This rut of life, it's only a rut because we make it a rut, but we have access to information, an enormous amount of information, and we have to be careful with messages we're getting. A lot of these messages are just not, how shall we say, they're not correct. They're wrong. But it is within your hands, it is within your control to start thinking about who it is you would like to date, and to start practicing your interactive skills with another person, your interpersonal skills. How do you meet them? How do you introduce yourself? You have to be smiling. How do you rein in your emotions? you've been single and you've been frustrating yourself for 4 or 5 years, and you have a lot of pent up emotion. Well, that person who you meet isn't responsible for that, and you're gonna turn them off if you start unloading. There's an appropriate place and time, and for me on this finishing point, the admonition here is that our personal psychological problems are our personal psychological problems. We do not start dating so we can have a counselor or a therapist or somebody to use as an emotional punching bag. No. There are issues, we have to resolve them, and we shouldn't be polluting our romantic relationships with those issues. It's something we have to resolve, and we can resolve it. Again, thank you for listening, and I wish you well.